Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Sub-Lieutenant Adam Lynch. We're honoured to acknowledge the Lord Mayor of Adelaide, Sandy Verschoor. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed on the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Clarance Reginald Burke. Clarence Burke, known as Clary, was born on the 27th of April 1913 to George and Augusta Burke of Goulburn, New South Wales. He had been born in Nimitabel, and little known as of his early life, including whether he grew up in Nimitabel or in Goulburn. However, after completing his education, he went on to work for the Railway Department in Goulburn. Clarence Burke enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in October 1939 and left for active service overseas with the rank of private in the first convoy to leave Australia. Serving in the 2nd 3rd Battalion of the 6th Division, Burke was first sent to Egypt, where he continued training in the desert. In January 1941, the 2nd 3rd Battalion took part in its first campaign against the Italians in eastern Libya, successfully attacking at Bardia and Tobruk. By this time, Burke had been promoted to corporal. His friend, Corporal Kit Best, later told Burke how he'd been surrounded by 6 Italian tanks during the advance, and for a short period of time it was touch and go whether he'd be taken into one of the tanks as a prisoner or shot on the spot. At the end, an Italian-American man serving with the Italian army in one of the tanks persuaded the others to let Burke go. He was stripped of his equipment and turned loose. A few minutes later, Best reported the tanks ran into an Australian anti-tank platoon and were put out of action. But he added, Clary was still going strong. In March, the 2nd 3rd Battalion left Tobruk for Greece, where it engaged the German army. Burke's friend, Bruce Emmett of Bungendore, also serving in the 2nd 3rd Battalion, later credited Burke with having killed numerous Germans in Greece. The 2nd 3rd Battalion was evacuated from Greece in late April, but Burke was with a contingent that remained on Crete and formed part of a composite battalion of the 16th Baroque Brigade. It was later reported that he carried a wounded comrade from the shore to a destroyer, although the Germans were on the brigade's heels, and the act was done under fire. In June and July 1941, the 2nd 3rd Battalion took part in the campaign in Syria and Lebanon, where again Burke proved his ability as a soldier. And by the end of the year, he had been mentioned in dispatches for his good work. Bruce Emmett later said that he should have definitely been decorated for his bravery and leadership in Syria. After several months in Syria, the 2nd 3rd Battalion left for the Pacific Theatre, arriving in Melbourne in August 1942 after some time in Ceylon. The battalion's first campaign against the Japanese was the advance along the Kokoda Trail to the Japanese beachheads between September and December 1942. After 5 months in New Guinea, Burke returned to Australia and undertook training which resulted in his promotion to commissioned rank. It was probably about this time that he transferred to the 2nd 48th Battalion. The 2nd 48th Battalion landed on Tarakan Island off the coast of Borneo on the 1st of May 1945, pushing inland towards the towns and establishing a beachhead despite bitter fighting. Lieutenant Burke led a platoon to capture the southern knoll near the Langoose track, and it was soon apparent that the Japanese intended to fight for every piece of high ground. On the 7th of May 1945, after several days of skirmishes, Lieutenant Clarance Burke was shot by a Japanese rifleman. Although every effort was made to treat his wound, he died shortly afterwards. Today, Lieutenant Clarance Burke lies in the Labuan War Cemetery in Malaysia under the words, "His duty fearlessly and nobly done, ever remembered." Clary's mate, Bruce Emmett, later remarked, "All I can say is that the people of Goulburn who knew Clary and the people that did not know him can and must be very proud. Allow me to say on behalf of his mates, we will not forget." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. In the photograph displayed today beside the pool of reflection taken in March 1945, Lieutenant Clarance Burke can be seen in the back row, fourth from the left-hand side. This is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant Clarance Reginald Burke, who gave his life for us, our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we are left to grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.